All right, I am so excited to have the show, the Successfully Unemployed show, in an actual location where we're talking with a fantastic business owner who has created an amazing business. Now, with the Successfully Unemployed show, we try to talk to as many business owners, investors, side hustle experts, anybody and everybody who's found a way to make a living, provide for their family, provide for themselves without working that JOB, and that stands for just over broke. Because when you're working a job, you're just over broke. And so today I'm super excited to be on location with Vanessa Trufin. She has a fantastic business here. She has a bridal shop, and she has so many people coming to her. She even has Instagram people coming to her from other parts of the country. It's fantastic to be here. Vanessa, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today.
Awesome. So I want to jump right into it.
Okay.
It seems like obviously we're here, but how do you make money? Is it selling dresses? How do you make money without having a job to provide for you and your family?
It's a lifestyle. It's definitely not a job. It's past the point of it being a career. Honestly, I just had this dream of something that I wanted to do, a passion that's fueled me since I was very little. And I think I'm blessed to be able to, one, make money doing something that I love, and then two, get joy from providing a beautiful value to someone. Like someone comes in and when they leave my shop, they found the gown that they're going to become a wife in. And I feel like that's a huge blessing. And that's, I don't even know. It's amazing.
So you're getting, obviously making money, but at the same time,
Right.
you're helping people. That's terrific.
Yeah.
And it does sound like you have a passion for this. So that is super awesome. Now, take us back to when you did have that JOB, that job, and the thought of eventually I might want to have my own business. I might want to work for myself, but what job did you have? And then tell us about that process, getting out of that to being here.
Well, see, that's a fun story. I worked in marketing right before I did, I started on my own business, Avancy Bridal. And back to when I was little, it wasn't a matter of if I would ever get the chance to work in bridal. To me back then, it was just the wedding industry in general. It was a matter of when. I knew that I had a huge passion for it, and people would just laugh and say, oh, you're just obsessed with getting married. No, I got married and the obsession didn't go away. So when I went to school, I thought I wanted to be an orthodontist, which is really funny. And my version of success and my mom's version of success for me was completely different. So she encouraged me to do that. And I asked her one day, I think I was in high school, I'm like, how do you major in wedding planning? Is that a thing? And I looked it up and it was not a thing. You can't get a degree in wedding planning. So I went to school for advertising and public relations, and which is great because I utilize those skills that I learned every single day in everything that I do in my business. But I worked in casino marketing, and I was there for a couple of years, and it was fantastic. It was fun, but I could tell you that creativity and that sparkle and the pizzazz that comes with love and weddings is missing. And I worked with a wedding planner, and it was fun. But I definitely learned more how not to run a business than how to run a successful business. And then when my husband and I decided that we wanted to travel, I thought, all right, this might be my opportunity to find some side hustles to make money and also fuel my love for love. And I actually got 2 part-time jobs. So I worked for a very well-known high-end videographer here in Arizona. So on the weekends, on Saturdays, my days were filled with weddings and flowers and dresses and brides, which gave me so much life. It fueled me and energized me, I guess, for the week of marketing at a casino. And then I thought, okay, well, you know what? I have some time after work that I'm not doing anything positive with. So I got a job working for David's Bridal. Yeah, so 3 jobs. That was fun. But that's when I learned that connecting with the women and hearing their stories of love and how they got engaged and what's led them into my presence and into my fitting room and helping them find that dress and helping them feel like their most beautiful versions of themselves. That's what led me to wanting to eventually do this on my own, which is funny because I didn't think when I was little that I would be surrounded by wedding gowns and help women find their dress. But after just a couple of weeks of doing that and learning that, hey, I was actually pretty good at selling, that's when I knew, okay, this might be it.
That's fantastic. And that whole progression of doing something because you got to get a job and you wanted to make sure that you're making money, and then progression into I'm missing something. Like there's something missing in my life, and then finding out what that is. Now, I do want to touch on that you went traveling with your husband.
Right.
Now, tell us about the traveling. Before we get into how to actually do a business like this, which we're going to get into, I want to know, how was that traveling? Because you guys traveled a long time.
We did. So the span of it was a year, and we spent a whole year traveling 18 different countries in Europe. And funny, this is how I guess I did a good job picking advertising as my degree, because it was on our honeymoon in Costa Rica that I looked at my husband. We were on a canoe, and I said, I want to travel. Like, I want to live somewhere else. And he patted my shoulder and said, okay, sweetie, we can do that. And we got home, and I was just fueling him like, oh my God, wasn't that great? The adventure of being somewhere new, meeting new people, learning new cultures, learning about languages, that I kind of convinced him. And it's funny because he's a financial guy. He runs our finances. He runs my business finances. That's his life. That's his passion. But it was me that sat down and did the math of how much money we would have to save up a month, how much we could live off of, and I mean bare minimums living off of, to be able to travel for a year. And he's like, okay, let's do it in 5. And I said, no, let's do it in 1. He said, let's do it in 3. And I said, no, let's do it next year. I said, I want to spend my our 1-year anniversary of being married somewhere new. And I don't know how I convinced him, but we made it work. And I can tell you that, that's something that if I could do all over again, I absolutely would. It was the best year ever. And he admits that I was right, that it was a good idea. And oh my God, we just look back on that with so much fondness.
That's great. And it takes a strong man to say, honey, you're right. And I've found in marriage, it's easier for me, instead of going through an argument and fight and try to, even if I'm only 1% wrong, you're right, babe. All right, let's move on. It's okay. Let's do that. So I do that all the time. But yeah, that's fantastic. My wife and myself and my kids, we love traveling. We went through Europe for 6 weeks. I don't know how you guys did a year. That's awesome. So let's jump into now. You transition to where now you're looking at your passion and wanting to make a business and make a run at having your passion be a business. Yeah. Talk to us about the thought of a passion. Should we always go with what's our passion? Like, what is your thought about, I want to start a business. What should I choose to start? Well,
I think in that sense it was easy for me because I've known forever that I loved love. I loved weddings. I loved bridal. And in that sense, I think I was lucky to know that, because not many people know what their passion is. Not many people think that being successfully unemployed is something that they can achieve. So when it came to, us being, I think it was the last 2 months of our travels, it was, do I start looking for jobs and start sending out my resume and get back into that marketing aspect that I know, or am I going to start doing research and trying to figure out, okay, am I going to commit and actually start my own business? And that's when I decided I can't. If I get a full-time job, I'm going to, love having that paycheck coming in and knowing that if I go into work and I leave work behind. When I'm home, I'm just home. And it's not like that with a business. It's like you live and breathe the business. You go to sleep thinking about it. You dream about it. You wake up and that's the first thing on your mind. So when we got back, I got a part-time job working online. And I was just teaching English to students in China, which was fun because I could do that in the morning. And then I was awake, I was energized, and I just dove right into doing research on how to get this started. And oh my gosh, it was a whirlwind. And
you said you took about 8 months before you even opened the doors, before you actually did it, to plan, to talk to us about if we were to start a business, a retail establishment, and let's fast forward and say we already have a location, because location, you want someplace you can drive to and it's not too far, not a lot of bad people and all that sort of stuff, which we have realtors that can help us find that.
Right.
But let's say now we know what we want to do. We have a passion. We want to start doing something in this. We want to open a retail establishment. How do we do that planning, the 8 months? Like, what do we need to do in those 8 months?
I am a big fan of lists. So I had so many different notebooks filled with lists of things that I would want to do. But ultimately, half of the things on my list were research. And I'm not an overanalyzer. I don't overthink a lot of things, but when it came to the business, I was overanalyzing and overthinking everything. I was doing research on everything. I think I got into that mentality of what would my bride do? So I took to Pinterest. I took to wedding magazines. My house was filled with them. I was following every and any photographer and videographer and planner and wedding venue in the state of Arizona that I could find. And I was looking at who their brides were. Like what age were they? What were they wearing? And then based off of the styles that I was seeing, I was looking for those designers. Which is funny because I started with this mentality that I wanted to have unique and different designers that you couldn't find in the state of Arizona. I'm like, well, I'm not seeing my brides wearing this. I want to be the store to bring it in. I later learned that that was not the right way to go about it, but it's something that I had to learn from that mistake. But I took into doing a lot of research. Okay, well, where's my location going to be? How far is the nearest store? What designers are they carrying? Looking at their Instagram and learning about their bride, and figuring out what they were wearing. And ultimately, when I started, I use social media a lot for my business. So using tools like Instagram were huge. I dove into creating a personality for my store, and I feel like that's something that sets me apart from everybody else. And you want to set yourself apart. You want to be uniquely yourself in your business. If you're trying to emanate somebody else or compete with somebody else, you're just going about it in the wrong direction. So setting up that unique personality for Avancy Bridal, I feel like was the hardest part, because I'm like, who do I want to be? And then I was like, okay, I already know who I am. So then I just started portraying that through our social media.
That's great. And I absolutely agree with you. Researching your customer. That's like, if you don't know where your customer is, what they want, or anything about them, or even who it is, how are you going to sell? And so you may think that you're doing a good job, but you might be doing half or not even as much. So, you did talk about getting you were doing a lot of research. Was there something that got you out of the research phase that said, you know what, I just got to pull the trigger? Like, I'm doing way too much research, and I'm almost paralyzed because there's so much coming in. Talk to us about the process to now taking that step to opening the business.
So after, I think I've gotten lucky in a lot of different aspects, but my husband will tell you otherwise. I connected with a designer that I wanted to carry in my store, and she says, look, this brand is exclusive to one shop in Arizona. And she said, I want to connect you to her. And I was shaking. My palms were sweaty. I was like, are you kidding me? This woman's a legend. She's been in business forever. She's everybody in the state of Arizona that's gotten married knows who this store is. And she said, I want to connect you with her. And she did, and I went to her store and I met with this. She is now my mentor, and I love her to death. And she helped me kind of get over those fears and give me some background on, okay, well, you need to stop focusing so much on the research and doing this and step into the more business side of things. And I think, honestly, it came in a just fueled by passion to come in and commit and open. And once it was real, I knew, okay, I'm in it now. I have to commit, and it has to succeed. There's no other option. But it was a lot of help from family and friends and my mentor as well, to get to where we are, even just 2 years ago, to open up my doors.
I can't say enough about having a coach, a mentor, somebody who's literally done this with you. And I'll give you an example. So I invest in real estate rental properties. I have 30 plus properties. I've done it so many times that it's almost second nature. Like, it's just something that's just like my brain turns on. Somebody who has a retail establishment, something that you're already doing, or whatever business you're already doing, they've already gone through it, and it's also become second nature to them. Like, oh, you're doing that? Okay, this is what you should do differently, or this is how you jump over this hurdle or this landmine, or this is how you make more money. And so that, on top of having a mastermind or having other people in the same kind of business idea, and you guys are bouncing off ideas off each other. So getting outside wisdom is great. Now, the next step, let's say we know what we want to go after. analyzed, we know who our market is, who our customers are, we know where they're at, we know how to reach them. What is the next step to actually opening the door? Was it a lot of work like, let me design it, let me put inventory? Inventory alone is a lot of money. Like, talk to us about right before you open, like, what you have to do to the store in order to open the doors?
So my store is, when we first found the location, right behind us, you see dresses, you see the pretty photo wall. This was all offices, and it was horrible. The lighting was terrible. There was ugly carpet. It just looked super, super different. So I started sketching. Like I told you, I'm a big fan of pen and paper, and I took to pen and paper and I started designing what I wanted my store to look like. I started envisioning the flow of the bride comes in with her bridal party. How do I greet them? Where do we go? How do I have my dresses displayed? And communicating that to the people that were doing the construction, it was fun because I had a lot of times when people would look at me and say, no, that's not how we're going to do it. This is how you should do it. And I think I grew a backbone. Oh, real quick. It's a strong backbone now, but it wasn't then, I can tell you that. I had to put my foot down and say, no, this is my business. This is how I want to do it. And that was hard because it was people that I respected. And it was hard because it was people that I didn't know. And I didn't want them to have this vision of me as a controlling person, which I'm not, but I guess when it came to my business, I definitely was. So designing the space was a lot of fun. I had so much fun with that. Honestly, if bridal doesn't work out, I might even take a hint at interior design. But working with the designers, I had to kind of figure out who my bride was, or plan to who she was going to be, to find the different styles. And I would look at, different designers and their style, and sometimes I would think, well, that's working in New York or LA, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to work in Phoenix. And there are things that I've learned, like communicating with my mentor. She's a 40-minute drive from me here, and I can tell you the styles that are best sellers in my store don't do well in her store, and vice versa. The styles that brides are buying from her, my brides aren't looking for. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And it takes you actually being in the business to really know, I understand what your customers are saying. So from there, you design it, which is great. You love designing, and I love the idea that you got a backbone, that you got to stand firm and say, no, this is my, number one, this is my business. Yeah. But number two, this is my money. This is not your, are you paying for this? Yeah. I'm paying for this. You are not going to tell, anyways, you want to take criticism and advice and wisdom from other people and disseminate that in yourself to say what's the best decision. So I think you went right on. And obviously you've been in the business how many years now? We
turned to January 13th, 2020.
Awesome.
So we are starting year 3. This is our 3rd January, and January is our busy season. So I'm like, okay, I've done this twice. We can do this. Let's go.
The busy season, yeah, there's definitely seasons in every business, especially the bridal business. I mean, you're definitely going to have seasons. So talk to us about now, your doors are open, and how was it that first couple months of there's not many people coming in the door, or like am I really going to make it? Talk to us about that.
So like I mentioned before, I used Instagram as a tool to help connect with brides. When I was planning my own wedding 5 years ago, I used that tool more than wedding magazines and more than, I guess, my mom would always say, use wedding magazines, this is what we use. And not so much now. I opened my doors, or I think I was a few weeks about to open my doors, and I was like, how do I get people in the door? What do I do? And it's funny because it hit me. And I was like, I have a degree in advertising. I should know how to do this. And then I kind of reverted back to like, okay, well, let's sit down and pen and paper and write it down. So the first thing that we did was look at the bridal shows. And there was one happening in January, right before my store was about to open, about a week before. So we did the show, and I hyped it up, and I said, okay, we're going to do this. Come meet us. It's going to be so exciting.
So from there, you're starting to hype it up, which is great, going to the bridal shows. So it sounds like getting your name out there and being okay with self-promoting it, you need to be able to do that. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and to be honest with you, I don't think I did enough of that when we first opened. I don't think I understood that if you want to have a successful business, you have to do anything and everything and whatever it takes to get it to thrive and succeed. And I don't know if I did enough of that when we first opened. And we still had brides coming in. They were trickling in. By the start of year 2, it was way busier. And I was like, okay, I'm doing something right. And then by the start of year 3, which was what we're at now, I'm doing things that I never thought I could do, coming up with ideas of getting more brides in the door and promoting my business, maybe even expanding it a little bit more than that, is as more of a lifestyle. Like if you come here, you're going to be part of the Avancy Bridal tribe, and you're going to be, and we have this photo book of every single bride that's ever purchased her dress. We put her photo in there with the "I said yes to the dress" sign. I'm a little nostalgic, so I kind of like looking back at all the women that we've helped, and all the dreams that we've made come true.
That's awesome. So how do you scale the business now? We have the door open. We're starting to get people trickle in and hopefully start coming more and more. We try to do more marketing. How do we then scale the business?
What do you mean by that?
How do we make it so we can make more money, get more people in the doors? Do we start another location? Do we do more things online? Like, what is the way to make sure that we can continually build the business?
It's funny that you asked that. I've had this mentality of, people say, well, you can't have it all. And then I always reply with, well, why not? My mom would say, why are you going to quit your job, or are you making a lot of money to travel the world and have nothing? I'm like, well, I want to, have a good relationship, and I want to see the world, so why can't I have it all? And that leads me to, I think it could even get me in trouble, dreaming too big. And the fact that sometimes my dreams can scare me. I'm not entirely sure if I want to open up a second Avancy Bridal location, although we've had some requests from brides across the country. Oh, please come here, or come to LA, or come to North Carolina. And I'm like, what's in North Carolina? I've never even been. But I'm thinking more of taking back to that initial passion that I had for weddings and expanding on that. Not entirely sure which direction I want to go yet. I just know that I'm going somewhere.
And Vanessa, it sounds like you love helping people. And yes. I found the best way to help the most people at one time is online. So keep building up everything online. Maybe start using TikTok. I know you probably are, and your husband's big on TikToks now. Now let's jump into the rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but it should be pretty easy for you. Now, hopefully we have a little more time because we're not working for somebody else.
Right.
What are you doing to give back to your community, to your family, to anywhere to make things better for other people?
I have 2 big dreams, and I'm glad that you brought that up. The first is I want to help as many women as I can. I mean, I'd love to help men too, but I'm a woman, and I want to focus on that first. I want to help women go to college. So one of the reasons that I'm working so hard to make my business succeed and bring in that money is I want to start a scholarship fund, and I want to help women who were in my position, and I knew that I had to go to college. I just had no idea how I was going to pay for it. So I want to start a scholarship fund where I help women make that dream of going to school possible. And then the second one is a much bigger dream that I have no idea how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to do it, is to buy my mom a house. Yeah, so I've seen her struggle with finances, and that's one of the reasons I think I'm a little bit more cautious and frugal with my money, is because I want to make, different choices than she made, and I want to work hard enough to where I can buy her a home, and she doesn't have to, worry about where her next paycheck is going to come from and how she's going to pay the bills, and just make life a little easier for her.
That's great. I love that.
You're touching me in the feels now.
So if you were to go back and give your 13-year-old self any advice, could be business, life, or whatever, what would it be?
Keep moving forward. Push through. Dream big. And there aren't many things that I would do differently. I feel like everything that I've experienced, at least with my business, I had to experience it to grow from it, to learn better. I had to touch the fire to know that I don't have to touch the fire. So
now that you have the business, you're starting to grow it even more. And what would be the next step for you? Is it next logical step? Is it to hire more employees? Get another location? Like how do we make sure that we are building the business even further?
Well, I have a team now of 7 people, which is crazy to think, because when we started and opened up our doors, it was my sister and I. And there were times when we would have 6 appointments in a Saturday, and we were baffled. We couldn't believe it. This is crazy. Now I think we can take 13 appointments in a Saturday, and that's just insane. And
now, pausing that, for everybody who doesn't know what appointment is, that's when a bride comes in, you spend the entire time pampering her, right? Yeah. Or is that how it goes? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's about 90 minutes. She comes in, she gets to look around at our pretty gowns, and then we start trying some on. And by the end of the appointment, hopefully she has found the dress that she's going to get married in. Yeah. So now, like I was saying, we can take about 13 to 14 appointments on a Saturday. So that's 14 different brides coming in, getting to meet her, hear her story. And then I honestly, it's just trying to figure out what's best for my business. It gets a little tricky. We have designers. Our designers make the dresses. I don't design as much as I wish I could. And
Wait, you design dresses too?
no, I wish I could.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
my designers do. And with them, it comes that handling the size of our inventory, which is tricky. And that's something that I'm dealing with now. We have to order dresses from each designer twice a year. And that means more inventory coming in. And my shop is only 2,000 square feet. And believe it or not, sometimes I just can't fit them in anymore. So that's something that I'm learning now too, is what do I do with those gowns. And I've considered at one point maybe opening up a shop where I just sell my off-the-rack dresses. And I thought, you know what, that I can barely handle this now. I don't think that's gonna bode well for me. It comes a lot with planning and doing research and studying myself and my business to figure out how we're going to continue growing.
So 2 questions immediately came into my mind. Number 1, managing employees, but number 2, managing inventory. So talk to us about starting a company, having inventory. Obviously, wedding dresses are expensive. You have to have enough to fit on the shelves.
Right.
Is it consignment where like they put them in and then put them in your shop and then you sell them, or do you have to actually have that money, put it out of your pocket in order for them to start selling? Like, talk to us about the inventory.
Inventory, that is fun. I have to have a wide enough variety to meet the specific needs of my bride. So I love ball gowns. I can't just have pretty princess dresses because not everybody that comes in here is expecting that. And coming in terms of inventory, that's been the trickiest part. I'm so sorry.
So with inventory, when you're starting a business, you have to get inventory in order to sell. Is it something that we should really think of like, okay, let's try to get consignment, get somebody to put in dresses and we sell them and then pay them later, but probably you can't do that. Anyways, talk to us about inventory and then how do we make sure we keep the right inventory?
So that's a process. First, I have to find my designers. Which designers am I going to carry in my store? Are they a good fit for my bride? Do I even like the dresses? And then usually that's a contract. So I have to order a set amount of dresses twice a year. And then
Is that an outlay of money?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
I have to physically pay for every single dress.
Wow.
And once I pay for that dress is mine. There are some rules to what I can sell the gown for, but if I realize that, this particular dress isn't doing well after a year, I can decide what I want to sell it for. Obviously, I want to at least make what I paid for it, but that gets tricky. And when I first opened up my shop, I wasn't sure, the type of bride I was going to get in. I buy one gown, and I have to figure out what color I want it in and what size. You'd think a wedding dress is just a white gown, but you have ivory, you have off-whites, you have champagnes, blush. So it's trying to figure out which color am I going to buy this dress in, which size am I going to buy this dress in. And then after starting year 3, I've learned, I have a system that helps me track my best selling sizes. And it's so different because sometimes when we have special markets for owners like myself where you go and look at the new collections and you can decide what you want to buy. I'll be standing next to another store owner in California and she's like, oh, I'm buying this in a size 6 and a 4. And I can tell you that would never work for my shop. My women are, I want to say, a little different than most stores in a great way, of course. But managing inventory gets tricky, and I've started recently, and I don't know why I wasn't doing this before, sitting down and doing math. Which as a store owner you have to do, but personally I absolutely hate it, unless it's numbers that are coming into my bank account that I'm thrilled. But I have started analyzing how well my designers are performing for me. So I've sat down and I've looked at my initial investment into a designer, figured out how much profit we've made, and then from that, how much actual profit we've made. So I've started subtracting my initial investment into them versus the profit and realizing that some of my designers are rock stars and some of them not so much. So then comes that initial, okay, well, I have to decide if I'm going to continue working with them or if it's a relationship that I'm going to have to cut. And it's hard because you get to know the designers and the representatives for that brand, and they're friends and they've seen my business grow. So it's tough decisions that I have to make when it comes to inventory.
And I love the idea that you're and I'm not a numbers person at all. Like I'm literally not a numbers person. My wife does the budgeting. Yeah. So I don't like numbers. That's why I pay accountants. And what you've done though is get past that and say, I need to make better decisions for my business or wise decisions for my business, and having that information in your brain so you can make a wise decision is very, very vital. Yeah. It's crucial because if you don't know what your customers are actually buying and I think this and I think that, well, you're not going to do as well as you could if you knew exactly what your customers wanted and you provided what they wanted, when they wanted it, and then anything else you can go ahead and weed out. And so going through and looking at the analytics, basically looking at the numbers and keeping track of all those numbers, you make better decisions. Because I remember, so for one of my, on my business, I saw from one of my websites for masterpassiveincome.com, I had 2 different opt-ins. Like, here's, download this or go watch a free workshop. Yeah. One's like an hour and a half investment, one's a downloadable PDF. Right. And I realized the conversion for the quick downloadable PDF was like 90% of people going to it. But for the workshop, which is like an hour workshop, is like 3%, 4%. I'm like, why am I doing that? Anyway, so knowing the numbers is going to help you to make better decisions. Like, I need to remove this because it's just not working. Yep. So from there, how do we then deal with, I'm going to say deal with, it's kind of a rough way to say it. We have employees. It's, every business that I start now, I'm trying to do my best to never have employees just because it's so much work. It's almost like babysitting unless you hire a babysitter and make sure that they are taking care of everything else. But talk to us about now, your employees, part of a family, you have sisters in here, but you have other close, like they could be really good friends. But talk to us about how do we handle and manage employees?
That's a great question, and that's something that I am still learning. I had never interviewed anybody before. I never had to sit there and train anyone, and my husband had tons of experience in retail, so I recruited him to help me out. And he would tell me, I would be like, well, I'm not so sure. And he would say, yes, we're hiring this person. She has what it takes. And I'm like, okay, well, all right. And that's something that when you work in bridal, at least here, the people that I'm looking for have to have a passion for this. This can't just be a job. Like, you have to be committed to meeting people and helping them and hear their story. And it's an excitement. When you're buying a wedding dress, it's not a logical purchase. It's like when you're looking for a car, well, okay, this is the price, here are the mileages. Sometimes you can, feel a little something about the color, but when it comes to a wedding dress, it's an emotional purchase. So I was looking for employees who would understand that. And sometimes they don't know, and we have to train them with that. And I can tell you that the team that I have now is spectacular. They're phenomenal. They've learned now how I run and how I like to do things. And I think that sometimes I'll come up and I'm like, hey, can you? And they're like, we already did that. And I'm like, wow, this is great. But there are times where you have to sit there and train and in a way help them have that excitement that you have for your own business. And I think that if you're looking for employees, that's something that you may not ever have. No one's gonna love your business as much as you. No one's gonna wanna work as hard to make it succeed and thrive as much as you. But if you treat them well and you help them and give them fun incentives to want to love you and your business, it's just gonna help you so much more.
Exactly. When you have somebody that buys in as an employee, where they say, you know what, boss, or boss or lady boss or whatever they call you. Like for me, I had employees call me boss just for fun. But anyways, you know what, boss, I was walking down Costco and I saw we're selling this for this price and Costco's selling it cheaper. We can buy it here because we're buying it here for this price. And they get bought in as opposed to just clocking in and clocking out. And it's not easy to do, to make it so that they want to help, that they feel like they belong, that they're a family. Now, at the same time, you do have to also have a stick. Like, if something goes wrong, you need to be able to not change them, but like correct them and teach them and train them, like you said. So what's the next step for Avancy Bridal? Like, what's the next step to growing or changing, or what do you think? Because we're 2 years now. What do we do next?
That's a great question. Something that necessarily, I don't know if I've exactly thought about what's next for Avancy Bridal. I think right now I want to survive our busy season, which is not a very good thing to say. You don't want to just survive. I want to continue growing Avancy Bridal in a sense of, I've noticed, for example, we've had, like you mentioned at the very beginning, we've had brides come in from out of state because they want to purchase their wedding dress from us. And that's the biggest compliment I could ever have. Somebody hops on a plane, comes to Phoenix, Arizona to buy her wedding dress from me. I mean, you can go to New York and go to Kleinfeld. Don't do that. Come here instead.
I agree.
But I've noticed that when my brides have been following us for a while and they're familiar with who we are, and they walk into our store and like, oh, Vanessa, it's so nice to meet you, or there's Mr. Avancy, which is what we call my husband, and they know who my employees are, and they know that I just went to market in Chicago, and they want to know how my trip went. They're more inclined to buy because they have an invested relationship with my business, and they're just so excited to be here. And that's one thing that I want to continue growing on. And like you mentioned earlier, like I told you, I'm not a very over analytical person, except when I was starting my business. My husband has his own business too, and he was talking to me about TikTok, and I thought it was just teenagers, doing fun videos and dances on TikTok. And I scrolled through it and I was like, all right, well, he was sitting there, I think for hours, talking about what he would call his TikTok name. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. And I just created one for Avancy, and then I made a video. And then the second one I made went viral, and it got 7-point-something million views. And now we're at the point where we'll record videos and we get messages and calls saying, I live in New York. I saw you on TikTok. Can you send me this dress? Like, I want to know the info. I'm booking a flight when I get engaged. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is crazy. I never imagined that I would be at that point. So it's sometimes I realize that things just happen to me and I have to roll with it. And sometimes they're great, like this TikTok idea that just happened. And I think that that's one thing that I'm going to do with Avancy is just let her grow. Personally, I have some goals that I want to accomplish outside of Avancy Bridal that I think owning this shop is going to help me achieve.
And so from there, you have VanessaTrufin.com,
yes,
where you can actually share and reach to more people. Because right now in Phoenix, we have our bridal shop here, but people have to fly. There's a limited reach. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about your idea of, hey, I want to help more people, and having VanessaTrufin.com.
So with VanessaTrufin.com, which is weird saying that because it's just my name, I'm using that as a platform to talk about a wide variety of things. It's not just bridal, where I want the majority of it to be about weddings. I tour wedding venues, I sit down with vendors and talk about more of the business aspect of a makeup artist. Sometimes you think, well, I can just do my own makeup. I do it every day. Well, when it comes to a wedding day look, you want it to be bold so that it looks good in the photos, and you want it to last all day through the tears and the laughs and the joy. And then I also am tackling issues that I've noticed here as an owner. So body positivity. My brides will come in and say, well, this is the dress that I love, but I'm insecure about this. And it's just something that's in our own heads. It's something that we see our own flaws, but no one else is going to see that. Issues like fear of missing out when you want to continue shopping but you found the gown, or even I know I found the dress but everybody around me doesn't like it. And that's one thing, like, for example, if you found the gown, you have to be the one to love it. Just like how you love your wife. And when she was dress shopping, and let's say, for example, her mom said, no, that's not it. Well, her mom doesn't love you the way she loves you. And that's what I tell my brides. And no one's going to love the dress as much as you're going to love the dress. Your mom and your sister are not going to wear this gown and become a wife. You are. So through Vanessa Trufin, I'm tackling fun issues like that. exciting people when it comes to the wedding industry, promoting other business owners in the area and sharing their passions. And I call Avancy Bridal my baby. So talking about their babies, maybe they own a wedding venue or they have a hair salon. So it's been a fun adventure just doing my own thing outside of Avancy Bridal.
I love it. I love it. And I think everything you're doing here at Avancy Bridal definitely goes right into VanessaTrufin.com. And it's really, I think it comes out how much you want to help. How much you want to just help the future brides.
Yeah.
It's just great. You absolutely. I think it's contagious. Just me listening to you right now, I'm like, man, I want to get married. I want to try on a dress. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I don't. But anyway,
you can renew your vows.
We can.
You don't
yes.
need to be getting, as my husband says, you don't need to be getting married in order to buy a wedding.
Nice.
So he's a better salesman than I am. Come on.
Now I want you to give. You covered so much ground. I want you to give us a concise, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. How is somebody, if they want to start a retail establishment, what are the steps that they should do if they're going to get started? Like 1, 2, 3.
If you're going to start your own business and start your own retail establishment, the first thing I really recommend you to do is ask yourself this question. Are you sure? It's a big commitment. It's a lot of work. And I don't want to deter anybody or scare anybody away, but you have to be prepared for the amount of hours that you're going to have to put into this, the sacrifices that come with it, and the amount of work that it takes. And then if you've gotten past that point and you still want to go for it, all right, here's what we can do. Do some research. You have to know what it is that you're doing, who your target market is, who your competitors are, what your product is. You have to know it inside and out better than you know yourself. And then once you do that, start a plan. Okay, well, here's where I want to be in 6 months. How am I going to get there? If you have a clear vision of what you want and what your business is going to look like, every decision that you do has to lead you in that direction. Everything. And then after that, surround yourself with a team or friends or family or mentors that are going to help you reach that goal. And of course, financial plans usually, kind of take a part into starting a business. So having that set and making smart financial decisions is really going to help you succeed.
Those are brilliant. I love all that. That's great. Okay, so last question is, if you were to give us one nonfiction book, it could be business, self-help, whatever it might be, what should we read?
Oh, see, that's funny. You mentioned that in one of those series books that I read has nothing to do with business at all, but it's something that fueled me to start my own business. And it's a sappy love story by Nora Roberts, and she talks about 4 friends that get married and they work in the wedding industry. And I think because it was related to something that I was passionate about, it made me excited to do it on my own. So while there are many business books that you can find, reading something that relates to your passion and helps excite you and fuel you, not just a here's what you have to do type of book, I think can help, because you're going to think about business a lot and you're going to be thinking about how you could succeed, that maybe having a little something leisurely and related to something to your passion might be a good breather.
I love that. What's the name of the book?
There was 4 of them. I think it was like Vision in White was the first one. They're super cheesy, but they're so romantic, and I love them.
I'm gonna have to have. My wife loves reading those, so I'm gonna have to point those over to her.
I can send them over to you.
Oh, awesome. Well, Vanessa, you've been fantastic. Give us such great wisdom and advice, and I love that we're actually here at Avancy Bridal. It's just fantastic to be here. If somebody wants to reach out to you, if they want to see your TikTok, how can somebody find you?
You can go to VanessaTrufin.com. You'll learn more about me and what I'm doing outside of Avancy Bridal through that. If you have Instagram, follow Vanessa.Trufin. You can follow Avancy Bridal. On TikTok, I believe our name is Girl You Fancy. I know, it's fun. And you can call us. Look up Avancy Bridal. You can find our phone number. Go on Instagram. We're always posting fun stuff. And I think that's about it.
And so everybody watching this, I absolutely just say Vanessa's fantastic. And I want you to check her out and everything that she's doing, because she's going to get even bigger and bigger. So we want to watch how she's doing it. And same thing with having a retail establishment. It's really, really awesome. And so thank you guys for being a part of the Successfully Unemployed show. It's really great that we get to interview such great entrepreneurs and even just great people. I mean, I'm so glad I got to meet Vanessa and got to know her and know her business. So all right, guys, thank you so much for being being a part of the Successfully Unemployed show. That is it for today's show. Now, I would so appreciate it if you hit that like and that subscribe button. I want you to be a part of this. So subscribe so I can get you all this great content on how to be successfully unemployed. Now, I do want this show to be all about you. So in the comments, I would love to hear your comments of how this is a great way and how you're going to apply this to quit your job, or this is the worst way to be successfully unemployed, whatever it might be. Leave it in the comments below so that I can interact with you. I want to see how I can help you to quit your JOB, that just over broke job. So if you got anything out of this, I would love it if you shared with one person, said, hey, there is a way to be successfully unemployed and quit that just over broke job, and here's a way to do it, so share it with one person. So you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Successfully Unemployed show. We'll see you next time.